Hello, everyone. We're going to start today with the favor recap, of course, and also taking a look at some key teams in the playoffs like the Justice and the Soul.
Yeah, it's going to be a React Dandy stream looking at the opening weekend of the playoffs.
I said and the Soul. But I'm Avast. This is Jayne, and welcome to Contested. Hello, everyone. We are once again live from the Frontier Communication Studio in Dallas, Texas. I am Avast. That is Jayne.
Hi.
I said this and the Soul in the intro.
I wasn't listening.
There was supposed to be more. So you're like, so it's like me when you're doing the recap. Like I'm staring off into the distance. That's what you.
It's one of those things. I don't think either of us listen to anything the other person says. It's just when we hear silence, we just like start talking. You know, it's what happens when you put two people who love the sound of their own voice in a room together.
That's fair. That's honestly pretty fair. But I thought I couldn't help but react because I said Justice and the Soul, and I was like, is this an R&B band? Like I don't know. Like, yeah, Justice and the Soul.
The worst part is if you don't correct yourself, you know chat's going to be correcting yourself for like 5 solid minutes anytime you do it. But either way, welcome to your Tuesday episode of Contested here in the Frontier Communication Studio. You finally had more Overwatch. I know that we went an entire weekend without there being any Overwatch League games, but now you got 4 full days, Thursday through Sunday, and we are back to react to pretty much all of those games. And, well, I mean, even from the very opening game, 95% of brackets got boomed in the very, very first
Sometimes
match.
Boston just beats Houston, and Houston just say, actually, I'm not going to know how to play. Houston literally just said it's the SpongeBob. I do a lot of SpongeBob analogies, by the way. Fine dining and breathing, okay? And SpongeBob, much like Houston Outlaws, only knew how to do 2 things. Houston knew how to play Pharah and lose, and that was it. That's it. That's all they knew. They didn't know any other comps. They said push everything else that wasn't Pharah comps out of your mind, even if you're getting hard countered the entire time, and it did not go well for them.
Well, before we get into the rest of the games, let's start things off in case you didn't watch all the games from this weekend with your favorite 60-second recap. Again, in case you weren't able to watch all the games this weekend, here's what you missed. The Boston Uprising got their 3rd overall and first playoff win of the season against the Houston Outlaws, and then, unsurprisingly to me, but shockingly to Avast, the Washington Justice started their reign of terror by absolutely dominating the Vancouver Titans. The following day, that blitz continued as the Dallas Fuel fell to their former teammate Decay, Atlanta crushed Boston's fledgling Dreams, and the Los Angeles Gladiators barely squeaked out a victory against the Toronto Defiant. On Saturday, it started to look like the San Francisco Shock weren't even going to be able to stop the Justice's rampage either, but they were able to pull off the reverse sweep against Washington, who then kept their dreams alive by not only sweeping, but eliminating the Paris Eternal from the competition after they dropped a close series against the Atlanta Reign. After the first weekend of playoffs, the San Francisco Shock and the Philadelphia Fusion are now posed to face off in the winners' final, with 4 remaining teams fighting for the honor to fight the loser of that matchup for their chance for a ticket to the grand finals. But that's all for NA. For your 60-second recap APAC edition, I'll be passing it back over to Avast.
I told you I was staring at the wall. Did he say something? Tell me to do something? Poggers. Have you guys seen that? Have you seen that emote, by the way, I added? It's really good. It's called Poggers, and it just is full text. It says, I'm having a stroke. So I'm pogging right now.
I didn't warn in the past that I was going to do that.
I didn't know. Yeah. So there's a 60-second APAC edition, huh?
That was so worth it.
There's a that's the 120-second recap.
You had the other 60 seconds.
I dropped it. The other 60 seconds, we're going to put that into an investment account and let it just get some interest. And we'll bring it back to you, and then it's going to be the
the APAC side of the bracket was a lot simpler, right?
It was. So before we move into like all the NA stuff, let's just deal with APAC.
Let's just deal with APAC, box it up, ship it off.
Let's get it out of the way. So first of all, Dynasty they're much like another team. They have suddenly become good in playoffs, and they're also unconventionally running 2 main tanks for both their tank positions. Gesture is just playing Roadhog now. Gesture just plays Roadhog now. Yep. I mean, that's just what he does, and that's fine. And Marv1, aka Marvel, is playing Sigma and D.Va. So both of their off-tank players, including the one they just signed, are benched. for their 2 main tank players.
Perfect.
And and also once Slime is still benched by Toby, the person that is incapable of ever being benched. So I just, the team just Dynasty sound good. They 3-0 charge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're playing 2 main tanks. Toby can't be benched. They're playing they were playing a lot of Sigma Roadhog, which honestly no one else in NA was playing. So I don't know, Dynasty. I guess you've gotten together. I have to say I'm not a fan of the being good only in playoffs thing, but I'll give Dynasty more of a pass than Justice, which we'll talk about later. But other than that, pretty expected. New York had a pretty good run.
They managed to take a map off Shanghai Dragons.
And they still had close round. They still had the close maps with the other maps too. I would overall say that like APAC was a lot. I mean, I wasn't expecting Dynasty to beat Charge, honestly. There's no way around it. I wasn't expecting Dynasty to beat Charge, especially to play both of their main tank players on both the off-tank and technically now the double off-tank position. So whatever they dreamed up there was working out. Gesture is kind of a Chad on the hog. People have said in the past that he does have a large hog. So I have to say that he is doing pretty well. It's apparent. It's apparent there. So I'm interested to see how Dynasty makes this work because their DPS are great. Their backline's doing okay, and their tank line is looking a lot better, which is always, and they've actually looked pretty synergistic. So I'm interested to see Dynasty moving forward there. If anyone's brackets weren't boomed yet, this should definitely help boom them, but everyone has already been boomed by Boston, Houston, for the most part, 95%.
Yep.
Of all people. So,
and then the losers bracket on the Apex side, again, a lot simpler than the North American, but it's going to be the Guangzhou Charge versus the New York Excelsior. So,
which I'm I'm favoring New York heading into that. After Charge's recent performances, I'm favoring New York heavily.
Now that was Charge's first game, right? Because they had the bye, so they didn't have a previous performance like the New York Excelsior, who had their first game against the Chengdu Hunters.
But they also had more tape to work with.
Yes, they did. So they it could just be the Guangzhou Charge had a bad read, but they'll again have this week in order to kind of get back on. The meta has been a little bit more well discovered or explored, and they can look at VODs and maybe give up whatever strategies they were trying and adopt whatever strategies were shown by, for example, the Shanghai Dragons. So, it's very possible that the Guangzhou Charge just kind of stumbled, but, they, for that stumble, only got knocked down to the losers bracket, didn't get fully eliminated. So there's a chance for Guangzhou Charge to recover. There's some excuses that you could be making for that team, but if those changes don't happen, I'd say the New York Excelsior are favored.
Did Nero come play? Yes, Nero did play, and it wasn't great, but I don't think that was totally on Nero. Charge overall just didn't seem like they had a very good read on the meta. I would compare Charge currently to what happened to Paris on the NA, which I guess we could sort of, because APAC was such a small amount of teams left at this point, the really only huge thing is like, Dragons a close game to New York. Okay, no one was expecting New York to beat Dragons. Playoff Soul with double main tank off tank is okay, cool, I guess. Like, we'll see how this works. I'm glad Soul just doesn't have off-tank players and hasn't had off-tank players now for a whole year. They choose not to play them. But we'll see how Soul continues to progress and if Charge gets a better read on the meta. But let's just go into NA because I feel like NA is the far crazier side. And I guess we can already just leapfrog that into Paris. I'm just going to leapfrog
all the way into Paris.
I'm just going to leapfrog into Paris right away because Paris have, much like the Charge, I think, had quite possibly one of the worst reads on the meta I've seen of any team in playoffs.
Yeah, it didn't end up well for them. They had the first map against the Atlanta Reign, which was a 5-game series for their elimination. And then, unfortunately, the matchup that they had in the losers bracket when they got eliminated was the rampaging Washington Justice. And that one was not even close. That was a solid 3-0. And that makes Washington Justice have 3 3-0s so far in the playoffs. So far, the only team who's even drawn blood out of the Washington Justice squad has been the San Francisco Shock.
I'm so disappointed in Eternal myself. I was really a fan of the Eternal storylines and everything they had achieved with the squad, but it was pretty obvious with how they were playing Sparkle and Sombra full time that they have put all of their eggs, every egg on the entire farmstead has gone into the Sparkle basket. And he's screaming, he's playing Genji and stuff, he's balancing the eggs, but they have all fallen. They have fallen. They have broken into a big, gooey, yolky mess onto the ground when Sparkle did one of his Rage compilation number 204 or whatever, because it was a really bad read to put Sparkle on the Sombra. It just was not working out for them at all. They were trying to do the no smite bin best swap for the tanks, which I'm okay with, honestly, because he saw teams rotate him out a bit if they wanted to play Winston or if they wanted to play Hog. But ideally, your Winston player could also play Roadhog, which I don't think Paris had available to them, because teams like Shock they had the option to play Smurf on Winston or to play him on Roadhog a little bit or Zarya, which even if it wasn't perfect, it was still doable. But Eternal, their read with the Sparkle Sombra was bad. Like, and they had the crazy part too is they had 3 DPS players on the roster, 3 other ones that had all played Sombra at some point. And they're like, nope, we're putting Sparkle on Sombra. And it just wasn't good. It just wasn't a good time. Like, I did not really like how they were playing around the Sparkle Sombra at all. It's just weird, their whole situation there. I don't know how Eternal face planted so hard when their rest of the season, they've sort of been relatively good at finding something that worked really well for them. Mm-hmm. And they had such a flexibility in their DPS lineup. So I'm disappointed. I'm just disappointed in Eternal.
I didn't watch the game against Atlanta. So when I had heard that the Paris Eternal had lost to Washington Justice, I had thought that just got knocked them down into the losers bracket. When I heard that they were eliminated so early, that was kind of like that was, I was expecting them to be kind of the spice that makes the NA side of the bracket interesting, but really, now you have the San Francisco Shock and the Philadelphia Fusion already lined up in that winners final game. And even though one of them is going to go into the losers final and have to work their way back up in order to get sent across the ocean, it doesn't really look like, unless Washington Justice really is somehow miraculously blown themselves up into A tier magically with the inclusion of Decay.
I can hear GM Pre just yelling in the distance, "We built this!" It echoes off the walls. It's reverberating in my mind. We built this every day, just hitting my gray matter, liquefying it into a slush as he screams, "We built this." Well, here, let's just run through now the rest of NA.
Yeah. So like the winners final, very predictably, is the Philadelphia Fusion versus the San Francisco Shock. And in the losers bracket, we have Atlanta Reign, Florida Mayhem, Los Angeles Valiant, and Washington Justice. Do any of these 4, no matter who wins their respective matchups, do any of these 4 have a chance to beat the loser of that winners final? Or is it just going to be, a slight delay until we inevitably send the Fusion and the Shock?
I'm actually confident in every team that is not Reign to potentially beat the loser. Potentially.
All right, justify Florida Mayhem and Los Angeles Valiant.
Mayhem looked rough the first day versus Valiant, but it was pretty obvious that they needed BQB on the hard fragging role. Not that Sombra can't be, but traditionally Sombra, like unless you're Hisu, essentially, Sombra has been a role that is much more, it's very much about like a setup and like getting max value where you can. And it seems that Yaki, and then while the Reaper or your McCree or whichever player was on that, was your hard fragger traditionally. And the great thing about Mayhem is that both their DPS players in their lineup have been really flexible and really good on just about everything. But BQB has consistently been, especially on like hit scan heroes or like the Reaper and things like that, obviously the far better player. And Yaki's flexible enough to play the Sombra, even if BQB was known in Korea as a bum god, even because he was so good at Sombra, and he would be in like he'd be in the back line and stuff like that. Yeah. So, Yaki, the swap for Mayhem for their DPS lineup, putting Yaki on Sombra and BQB onto the Reaper / Hitscan was a really good move. I think that move probably ensures that they are good enough to make it to the losers final. In my opinion, I don't think they will lose to Reign. I think Reign, because they're too flexible now, and they found a lineup that works for them a lot better with BQB on that Reaper / Hitscan. Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling pretty confident in Mayhem to make it to losers final, and they're flexible enough considering that Shock. I think Shock loses an upper final.
Yeah,
right now, based on the performance, I think Shock loses an upper final because they can put Smurf on the other off tank, but it's not ideal for them. So they're sort of trying to figure out this lineup of like, how do we use Smurf and how do we use Super? Because Super is a main tank player that can play off tank really well, actually.
Yep.
And Smurf Zarya was okay when he played it. It was okay. It wasn't what you need though to be like a top tier, like I'm going to grand finals type of team. But they also are good enough to where they can still use the Winston when they can, because Winston still has a place in this meta, despite what everyone else has said. A lot of the good teams still are playing Winston. Fusion are playing Winston. Shock are playing Winston. Mayhem are playing Winston. There's a lot of Valiant. There's a lot of teams that are still playing Winston and not just Hog Zarya. But there are some times where if you're not getting value out of it, you're going to make the swap. So I think Shock currently probably lose an upper final though, who Philly are just looking insane. Mm-hmm. And Shock are beatable right now. Do I guarantee they will lose though? But every team that's not Reign, I think they could beat them. Valiant look really good. They have the roster to make the run. They just need to get a little bit more consistency, I think. Justice are powered up to Goku level Spirit Bomb shit going on there. And Mayhem are looking, not they made the adjustments, are looking really good. Rain are the only ones I'm saying no to, because everyone was like, all the Rain fans got really mad at me. They were like, I don't think the Rain's that good. And then the Rain like beat Paris Eternal in a map 5. Everyone was like, suck it, Avast. Like, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. And then Rain get pretty, not dominated, but they lose pretty convincingly to Shock, who weren't looking that great either.
So more explicitly, what are the reasons that you don't think the Atlanta Rain, out of the 4 teams, why do you think
they only know how to play one comp? They literally only know how to play Rush. Like, they don't seem to have any other grasp of the meta. It seems like they're forced into playing Rush, and which makes sense because it's sort of something they've been playing all year, and a lot of their players come from backgrounds where they know how to Ooga Booga really well. They know how to take the Ooga Booganim, the Ooganim, and combine it with the Booganim via some sort of enzyme, and the catalytic process will then create the Ooga Booga. And they know how to do that really well. But they don't seem to have a very good grasp on the other comps. And Erster, I was like, Erster is now, I don't know what's happened to Erster. I think Brad Rajani has drained Erster's life force to like give this team some life in the playoffs or something, because Erster comes in to play like silly heroes and he doesn't look very good right now. I don't know what's happened. That's the other thing too. Erster, who is arguably one of their best players, is now sort of off the face, and return Sharp has risen. The Erster is waning and the Sharp is waxing, right? Isn't that the right?
Close enough.
Waxing's getting larger, isn't it? Isn't waxing getting larger in moon cycles and waning's getting smaller or going away?
I think so.
I think that's right. But the point is like, I'm just not confident in the Rain. Their lineup I don't think has been perfect. They've been too forced into one comp, and a lot of the flexibility they need with like Erster is now gone because he's just not looking very strong. I mean, it's not gone, but he's just not looking very strong right now. So I'm not feeling confident in Rain. I'm really not. That's my personal feelings. What, do you disagree?
No, I don't. I'm really hung up on the Washington Justice. I think that by far they're the most interesting team to talk about right now.
You just really want to talk about Justice, huh?
I do really want to talk about the Washington Justice. I mean, not only do they have Decay on it, but it's also just another, the matchup between, because you thought that the Vancouver Titans were going to have a better performance than they did.
I did. It did not turn out that way. Also, to be fair, I've had to eat a little bit of crow with how viable Hogs Zarya has actually been.
I think you're not alone there. I mean, Unco notably.
But Hogs Zarya is definitely not only the meta.
No.
It's like a 50-50 split, I'd say. Yeah.
And even when I was favoring the Washington Justice to beat the Vancouver Titans, we were still thinking that Roar would be playing the tank. I don't think that anybody really saw Decay coming in and playing Zarya.
Yeah.
And then how good Jonu has looked on Roadhog as well. He's been,
his Hog has been really good.
Really good.
Yeah,
I think
really
is a bit of an understatement in terms of how it's just like,
I think the whole Decay storyline has stolen some of the thunder from Jonu.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, Decay's definitely the spotlight, not only because it ended up with the Washington Justice versus the Dallas Fuel, which absolutely demolished the Dallas Fuel. Yeah, that was a good one. I think I owe you some.
We had a good halftime show there.
Yeah,
we had a good halftime show.
Reverse sweep starts now. Woo!
I was not feeling it that day.
No, that was.
I was not feeling it when viewing it with my oculars.
No?
My optics.
Yeah, well.
Not go in there.
If you had faith in the Dallas Fuel, maybe they would have taken a map, but it was your disbelief that caused them
Maybe so. Maybe it was my negative energy.
But either way, yeah, Decay looking absolutely just like a beast on the Zarya and Jono. Especially when Roar was, there's the clip with Lil Sish, right?
It was Envytv. Because Joel's just never made it to the States.
Right.
Envytv, yeah, he made like a post on Twitter where he said...
It wasn't a post on Twitter.
It was streaming. He was streaming. And people clipped it were saying, like, now Justice are good now that they benched their problem. Cool. And to be fair, that's ambiguous. We don't know who that might be, but I think
it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty obvious.
Not a lot of potential options
we were talking
there.
about, imagine a team that has, at that point we were talking about, Jonu and Aim God and Arc and, Tuba's been doing really well. And it's like, why does a team with this much talent, that still does want to win? Because, of course, we've been talking about that, one of the big differences between...
Yeah, they built this.
They built this,
all right.
We can't ask more of our players.
We cannot. I mean, they can't right now.
Not
they really
right now.
Can't. They
right now.
actually
they,
cannot
they
ask
definitely
anymore.
asked for a lot, and right now they're delivering sort of thing. But yeah, it's... And Roar was one that I think even on last week's show, we were talking about just like blocking Roar's existence out of our memory because he has been a sore spot for the team. And now the meta has just fortuitously changed to allow them to kind of remove Roar and play Decay. And then, yeah.
It's There's a lot of controversy right now of building around is the Justice run in playoffs, and also conversely, I would even say Soul's run, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For both these teams, is this a good thing? A lot of people are like Justice, because I don't understand why a lot of people aren't including Soul in this conversation. I guess just because less people watch APAC, but do the Justice and also I'm including Soul, do they deserve these playoff run that they're having right now, where they have been, especially the Justice, who have been just terrible all year, just terrible. And they use a new rule because of the fact that they had players retire and they wanted to have players that were eligible to go to Korea, and they bring in arguably the hottest free agent that could have been available at the time and would still be one of the hottest, even in the offseason, if not the hottest. And now they're dominating playoffs in a meta shift for the third time in a row, by the way. In the 3 years of Overwatch League, there have been 3 different, distinct meta shifts at the end of the year for postseason that have drastically changed at times the results of said postseason.
I mean, regardless of whether or not they actually deserved anything, which is kind of a weird concept to begin with, it's at least getting people talking and getting people interested. You know, the Washington Justice definitely has probably a smaller fan base than even the Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal being a very popular team, so you take the risk of these popular teams, teams are like really trying to cheer, just suddenly not nearly being as viable, having a misread on the meta, and then just immediately getting eliminated, where you do kind of have these underdog stories, but these underdog stories come with teams who just, by the nature of how things are, has kind of that smaller fan base. So interesting narratives, anger, happiness, but I don't know in terms of...
I mean, myself, I'll say, by all conventional logic, the Justice do not deserve to be...
What do you mean by deserve, though?
Deserve is in, like, so the whole point of having a season is to determine who goes to playoffs. That's the whole point of a season, in my view. Yeah. But the thing is, we remove that in general.
But there's also where you place. You know, there's buys, and it's more difficult for the teams that don't do very well.
And also, I think there is a caveat there, right? For myself, a lot of people stated the whole point of a season, who goes to playoffs. Personally, I actually like it when you don't eliminate teams before playoffs. I think it leads to better storylines, but you should have to have a big handicap, which Justice did. I mean, they didn't get buys. They didn't get to skip any rounds to get extra tape. But I also think that for myself, there should be a little bit more of a handicap if possible. If you're this low, if you're like a bottom 4 team, I would argue that maybe you should have to jump through a few more hoops. But also, they did have to qualify. They did not have to only go through round 1, but they had to go through round two of qualification, and then they had to play the other matches without any buys. So I would argue the handicap's still decent. Like, whatever. I won't really die on that hill. You could maybe make it steeper, but whatever. I won't die on that hill. But for me, I don't mind playoffs. So pretty much for me is like, I don't mind regular season not really mattering for eliminating people from playoffs. But if you change the meta before playoffs, then it's wholly different than the regular season, then I have a problem, right? That's my particular view on it. Is like, if you change the meta right before playoffs, but you're also saying that the regular season will not eliminate anyone, well, then essentially the regular season doesn't matter anymore. Which, to be fair, I don't think the regular season matters.
Let's do a thought experiment. Let's do a thought experiment. Regular season is twice as long as the playoffs. And you cut the regular season in half. So you have 3 blocks of time. And each one of these blocks has a separate meta. And you have Team A and Team B. Team A is good for blocks 1 and 2.
I thought you were about to advocate for bringing back stages.
No, Team B is good for, really bad for the first one of regular season. Both teams are good for the second half of regular season. But then the team who sucked at the start is good in playoffs. Just because the luck of the draw that you got the meta that you were good at during regular season doesn't mean you deserve to win more in playoffs.
No. But this is more, it's not so much about deserving to win in playoffs, it's more of deserving to be in playoffs in this with the current state. Because let me give you a hypothetical example. We're going to call it Team Z. And Team Z sucked for everything.
Yes.
They sucked the entire time. And then something shifted and they got a new player because of extraordinary circumstances. And now they're really good in playoffs. For me, it's not so much like, I don't really care if a team sucks all season and under the same conditions. And then they go into winning playoffs. I think that's exciting because then that means they got their shit together. They're like, oh, they're whatever they were smoking or drinking, they got off of it. They have the AA chip. They're good to go. And they start winning. And maybe get a new player if it's necessary, But it's a whole entirely different thing if you suck the entire time, get new players, and then the meta changes, and then you get to come in for playoffs and it's an entirely different game.
This sounds like you've made this very like you're just like there is in all of this gray. You're like this is the line here.
Well, I would say that is the line because if we're playing checkers all season and in the end playoffs is chess, it's not even the same game. Now, but I will caveat and say, sure, Justice has to be a baseline level of good to win this much, right? They're really good. It's just not the same game that's been played all season long. It's just two very different scenarios, right? There's not even main tanks being played half the time in this meta. You know, we're not judging these teams based off the same standard anymore. No, we're not.
I mean, yeah,
that's how I feel about it. I'm not gonna and be like Justice should be gone. I still think it's exciting, right? And I still think Justice still has to be good enough to beat all these top level teams.
You know, from my standpoint, it's really what we're seeing is it's the Overwatch League Grand Finals. It's not the Double Shield Grand Finals. You know, all of these metas are still part of Overwatch, and a good Overwatch team should be, you know, on average, good at as many metas and as different and many ways to play Overwatch.
But also,
as
when
possible.
a new patch comes out, it particularly makes one role of the team really bad. Like, because also we're not just dealing with just like a meta shift of like, okay, well now your main tank player is playing a different role. Now it's like your main tank player is not playing if he does not play off tank for some of these teams, you know? So for me, it's about consistency. It's one thing if you swap metas from like, okay, we're playing Genji meta now with Winston Diva, but now it's like, oh, we're playing Orisa Sigma actually with Hitscan, right? Everyone's still playing the same basis of Overwatch, right? You still got your DPS, you got your main tanks. But now if you're telling me that you can play with no main tanks, then for me, to me, that's shifted the paradigm so much and the meta so much that it's no longer like, why did we have regular season at all then? Why didn't we just do playoffs and end the season? What was the point? Like that's the whole thing. What was the point? Why did we have why didn't we just have 1 month and it's playoffs, grand finals, and we're done? That's it. Overwatch League 2020. You know, that's how I feel about it because it's just so ridiculous. Now, still, I'm going to caveat it saying Justice is good. They won. They deserve to win. They're being a good team right now. They have the skill. They're beating better teams. But for all this hubbubaloo about the other everything else, like what was even the point then? Why would we even play? Because we're not playing the same game. It's not the same game. One of the roles is not required to achieve victory. You don't need main tank anymore. They have just removed, like, so it's like the standards have shifted, I think, here a little bit in terms of like what is good and what is not. Does this mean, like, I'm going to say it once again, because I know all Justice fans, because there's probably been like 20,000 new bandwagon fans that have activated.
Yes,
there's always an active contingent of bandwagon fans.
There's a crazy amount of people who just like bandwagon.
Suddenly, there's a lot of Justice fans all of a sudden. I don't remember this many Justice fans when they were watching our just feed. Like, I didn't remember this many Justice fans before, but suddenly there are. So the point here is, like, I just think it's a little ridiculous for the meta to shift this drastically for the third year in a row in playoffs, and a team to now essentially boot away a role that was integral to the rest of the season and now be really good. Doesn't take away their achievement, doesn't take away their work, and the fact that they're a good team now. It's just dumb. It's just dumb.
So would you, because they're like, this is still, it feels like what you're considering to be good or what should be to be a little bit arbitrary. Would you be happy, you know, in terms of
course, it's arbitrary. The Divine Lord is not telling me. There's no one's giving me a tablet with the 10 Commandments. But
going into the playoffs, for example, do you think that they should have like locked it where we went double shield all the way in? Would minor changes are okay? Or is it just like the difference being that the role is removed? Like how much change is too much change for it to be different from the regular season?
Here's my particular view. What if the meta is going to be off tank, main tank, double DPS, main support, flex support, right? Yep. If that's your meta, you can always shift around what are those heroes within that meta, right?
Yeah.
But if that has been, let's say, for 3/4 of the season, which it has, been that sort of lineup, and then at the very end, that meta completely goes away, which also entirely shifts the strength level of every team, right? Because all these teams now, for 3/4 of the seasons, have been built on a main tank, off tank.
So what you're telling me is that we need to have further role lock
No.
into main tank and off tank.
I'm just saying that maybe
make
if
sure
the
that
meta,
main tank players always have a role on the team.
No. I'm just saying that if you're going to shift the meta that drastically, if that's going to be your patch, maybe just delay the patch and don't put it in for the the postseason. That's how I personally, because it's just silly. Because like it's one thing to shift the game and be like, okay, now we're playing dive. Now we're playing double shield. But now it's like, actually, by the way, you're playing Billy Bob 22 meta where everyone's flanking all the time and you're just playing off tank. Like, and your main tank player doesn't even play the game anymore unless he plays Hog. Like, this is not what we've been playing. None of the metrics have been based off this for the entire season at all. It's just weird to me. And like, especially since we're doing it where no one gets eliminated, right? Because that means you don't care if you're bad for 3/4 of the season. Actually, we're just going to wait to get good until the playoffs, which is just weird. Because why have regular season?
Theoretically, you could do that, but it's a lot harder said than to just like sandbag an entire season.
But it's not about the point sandbagging. The point here is more the fact that like it just doesn't. There should be a punishment of some sort.
But there is. Is that punishment not severe enough? Because there's bottom tier teams are not completely eliminated. But in terms of the actual seeding, there is a reward for being good.
There is. They have to play more matches.
And there's also prize money throughout the regular season at the various tournaments, which are not insignificant amount of funds.
That's a reward. But technically, all of them combined would still be less than making it super far in playoffs, I believe, because there's far less playoff money award. There's far less money awarded in all the cups than there are in postseason, if I remember properly.
Chat, what do you think? We've been.
I'm just mauling over this. How does it keep happening? 3 years in a row. How does it keep happening? How does it keep happening, dude? How? That's my main thing. Let's not even talk. I don't even care anymore about justice. Just how does it keep happening for 3 years in a row? That we've had a drastic meta shift every year at playoffs. Exactly at playoffs. Every time at playoffs. Why? How? How is this? It's like everyone at Blizzard is just waiting there. They're just waiting for the playoff counter goes up.
Explicitly did that this year, right? From the original kind of Super League, where he talked about that the developers wanted to change up this meta, make it more. I don't remember the wording they used. It was something like aggressive or.
Oh, they're aggressive. I mean, sure, cool, but why do we wait to do the aggression at playoffs? Why not aggress in the middle of the season? Why not aggress to the next season? The aggression is always, you can always pick when to be aggressive, Blizzard isn't backed up into a corner. It's not like Double Shield is like sitting there like they're about to like, give me your lunch money, Jeff. Give me the lunch money. It's like Blizzard could choose when to drop the patch. They could potentially they could technically be less calculated and just throw out a patch earlier. They could wait a little bit once they're really happy with it and throw it once the playoffs are done. Why does it have to happen at playoffs? Why? It's not like they don't know Overwatch League exists. They know it exists. I know they do. That's the thing to me. Like, it's just wild that it happens. I can forgive a year. I can even forgive 2 years. But three years in a row of the meta drastically changing right before playoffs? Come on. Really?
Yeah.
Do they think I'm stupid? Huh? I might be. I might be stupid, but I'm also dumb, okay? So, there's my mauled. There's my mauled over the topic, okay? That's how I feel about the whole situation.
Definitely one for the record books.
That's it. That's my rant.
I think I'm just gonna sit here and just be like, we're just gonna agree to disagree.
I just can't find any logic. But okay, there's that. Let's move past that. Justice.
I don't even know what else is on our.
Let's move past that.
We talked about Dynasty. We talked about the Justice. Oh god.
Talk about Fusion still looking like the potential best in an A.
Yep, but somehow they'll still mess it up and play second.
Maybe if Fusion gets second after all this, after building like the unbelievable super team and being really good, and they've been all really good all season, still good now, then if Fusion then at this point, they are 100% cursed. The franchise is cursed if they lose now, if they get second again.
This is going to happen. They're cursed. They're cursed.
Because I think right now they're a favorite for me to win NA.
Oh, NA,
sure.
Yeah, but
for sure. No, maybe not grand final still, but for NA, yeah, 100%. But if they somehow don't win NA,
I mean, if they don't win NA, it's not
finals.
like, even if you don't win NA, it's a whatever match sort of thing. Although it was right after they lost 4-2 to the San Francisco Shock, they then beat them like 3-0 right after in a regular season game. So considering the match doesn't really mean anything, maybe the Philadelphia Fusion will actually be able to win that one.
Maybe.
So
I mean, Shock have finally been, I would say, leveled in power enough to where they're no longer looking to be the team to like. They're not like them and Fusion locked heads anymore.
Yeah, they're not a
There's a
mountain
lot
to be
more
climbed.
room. Yeah, there's a lot more room now. Like, because I like I said, remember this. I said this. Valiant was a dark horse. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
And look where they're at now. Lower round 2, they beat Mayhem the first time, though that was before Mayhem swapped their DPS. Valiant have the possibility to make it. I really the only team now that I'm just like I think is still out is Rain, because Rain just does. I've lost this. And the crazy part for me here too, and this is also why I'm kind of mad, is that I have simped for Rain so hard. My preseason rankings, I had Rain at like 3, and they were terrible. And then we get the playoffs, and what happens? Rain's suddenly kind of good, and I'm like, come on, like really again? Like, maybe I just see the future is the thing. I just see, and also I thought Justice was gonna be top 6 in preseason, and where's Justice now? Pretty good.
You were right all along.
I was right all along. I knew it from the beginning.
You were just too smart, looking too far.
I was looking too far ahead, but
crystal ball was out of focus.
Overall, I'm actually kind of happy. You know, if this had happened earlier, I would be happy with this meta because it's something interesting. It's something different. Teams would have had time to build around it. I think having a double off take, even though it's chaos and also really kind of miserable for some players, it's something we never had before, which I think is pretty cool. I think having more off tank presence is always nice because that's kind of a role that's like.
And this is the first time that we've ever had really a double off tank meta. And
also, you have the options to play rush. You have we've seen teams bust out dive. But Genji came back a little bit. And I actually think the Genji reinforce Jonathan Ryan Forche, as I call him.
Oh, no.
He busted out a pretty interesting take where he said that the Mayhem comp where they played Genji and Ashe is with the dive tanks was the counter to the Justice comp, to the Hog Zarya. And I actually think that's a really interesting take.
You think so?
Yeah, because here's my thoughts on it. Your Genji not nearly as good in neutral anymore, but you will be farming blades hella fast off of shooting a Hog and a Zarya with shurikens 24/7.
Yeah.
In addition, you have an Ashe to also keep those tanks in check. And on top of, and now since you have an Ashe to duel.
Attacks, sure, but defense, you won't.
No, because the thing is, the double off tank can't contest high ground very effectively, and Genji and Ashe can both control those. And because you're farming blades so fast, you're having them up for a lot of fights. And the Genji can also help contest, since you're playing dive tanks, can help contest that backline for Justice that is doing so much work because they've had Stitch on the Ashe. And sometimes they played like Tuba Fair or stuff like that, but they've always had Aim God Ana. So there's always 2 players for them to sort of dive and contest while also farming ults off of, because Ashe is really good at dealing with those tanks, and Genji's really good at farming blade off them while also contesting with the front line on the back line.
Seems a bit oversimplified to me. You know, both of the tank ultimates counter the Genji. Zarya Beam can't be reflected. The whole Hog can knock the Genji blade away, and the bubbles can be used to save people, either to prevent the dash resets or just to prevent assassinations.
True, but you could only have so many bubbles, right? You could only save one person at a time, because if you're bubbling your backline,
but the bubble, there's only one bubble for the Winston either, and then after that,
but the Winston can jump.
Oh, but then what happens after that jump happens? Because bubble goes pop, and then Winston goes.
Well,
pop.
Then he's jumped to the backline. He's not or jumped back to his team. He's not
but
staying
Roadhog
there.
and Zarya. I mean, if we saw this pretty much any time that at least the Washington Justice faced any of the people that they faced and tried to play dive tanks against them, like if you don't get something done in that very initial dive, and then that Zarya gets anywhere close to high energy, you're just done. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might work on the attack where you can play slower in order to pace things out. We also saw it very much not work.
True. I mean, did we really watch how much Genji?
We didn't see the Genji Ashe.
The Genji Ashe, it worked pretty well for Mayhem.
Yeah,
I'd say.
I think
and we haven't seen that.
There's very niche situations where I think that it could be effective. Like if you are attacking like Volskaya second with that composition against somebody defending that point with Roadhog Zarya, I think like those kind of situations, absolutely. But even flipping that around, trying to defend in that situation against an attacking Roadhog Zarya, you stay on the high ground all you want. Like your tanks can't contest, nobody can contest.
I mean, ideally, I mean, I agree. It's hard to contest, but you're trying to cycle contest, and also you're worrying more about farming ults really fast and fighting the backline, I think is a lot of what it comes down to, and keeping space for your Ashe, because you can't just, if you have a really good Ashe that's getting pocketed, they can't just sit. The double off tank can't sit in front of the Ashe.
Yeah, but like, if you have anywhere where you can stash your backline on a mega, where you can then have your tanks peel and the Winston can immediately dive away. You know, it's like Roadhog walks into bubble, good jumping away.
But I think the comp is good still. I also still think the rush
we'll
comp
put it as like solidly decent to mediocre. So I'm not going to say good.
Okay,
I'm
so
not going to say
let's say
good.
if they busted out again versus the Rain, but the thing is that the Rain doesn't even really play this comp.
No.
That's the thing. Rain doesn't even play with they don't play the double off tank. They never really play it. So, because I think Fusion still are good enough with the Rush, but the Rush should always win against double off tank too. In my opinion, every time
Rush
Fusion,
should say that?
like the Fusion Rush, where they're playing like Winston Diva, and they're playing like a lot of like Reaper Sombra.
Yeah, but even then, it's so high risk. Like, it's like it will work against the composition if you play it perfectly in that first fight, right? But if the fight ever goes chaotic, the Zarya Roadhog.
I mean, ideally though, the whole point of playing Rush is
one of
that
the
it never
reasons
KOs.
why the composition has so much strength in ranked is because the Roadhog Zarya, it's like they get more value the longer they are alive. Right. Yeah. So it's like, at the higher level, those compositions can defeat it, but it's just easier and there's fewer risks of mistakes for playing the easier composition, which is the Roadhog Zarya.
But it's still weird to me that only 50% of teams have really been busting it out proper.
Yeah.
Seems like all the really good teams are still focused on the
how many
main
months
tanks.
did it take until we first saw GOATs? And then how many months after
True.
that did it take
That's
until we
true.
actually saw everyone play GOATs?
That's actually fair.
Like,
That's
there
a fair
could just
point.
be the players being very prideful and be like, this composition is dumb, I'm not going to play it.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen more times than we can
really
count.
True. That is a fair point. And it is tough to break out of the bubble.
Yeah.
The meta inertia.
The meta inertia.
There it is.
All right.
We got it.
I didn't have it for
Wasn't a
waxing
long
and
one.
waning gibbous. So,
No.
and chat was really
Why
mad
didn't you
at
use
me.
gibbous?
Yeah,
Did I?
chat was mad at me that I didn't ring the bell for gibbous. So
We didn't use
That's for-
gibbous. Did we use gibbous?
yeah, you did. You used gibbous when you're talking about phases of the moon.
I just used waxing and waning. I said nothing about gibbous.
Didn't we say gibbous? I'm pretty sure we
I
said
did
gibbous.
not.
Somebody check the VOD.
Because the problem is every time I say the word gibbous, I can only think about Team Fortress 2. That's the problem, is that I can't use the word gibbous anymore without thinking of hats. That's just how it is. That's how it is from Team Fortress 2 player, okay? All Team Fortress 2 player know how to do is eat hot chip and gibbous, and that's it. Do you know that meme?
I never played
well,
TF2.
that doesn't. That's
I'm
not even
just
a TF2
looking at
meme.
you
That's
like
just a general
you're
meme.
a TF2 player.
So, at one point, we're going to call it the generational gap hour. Is that the thing here, Jane, is that we are the same age. So that's the problem here, is that I'm going to explain concepts for you that you should know. But because of the fact that you were busy chopping wood in the wood, and you're out in the woods, in the forest, chopping wood, and then putting it to your fire.
Chopping ice blocks for my igloo.
Well, but you're in Texas now.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So now it would be more like you're filling oil barrels with petroleum is more like that's what you're doing. And then you're bringing it back to your Ford F-150 and going and having yourself a quadruple cheeseburger.
So we talked about the Fusion and Shock game being that one
we did.
to look forward to. The other game to look forward to that we have on the Apex side of the bracket, of course, being the Shanghai Dragons versus the Seoul Dynasty, which is, Shanghai Dragons, I think, between both regions is still more or less the team to
Looking
beat.
really good.
Yeah.
They're still, but Dynasty with their random surge of power but the thing that's even crazier about Dynasty
buff
is that they're just playing two main tanks. That's the crazier part to me. It's like, for Justice at least, it's like, okay, Decay has played Zarya before. Janu is an off-tank player. Fine. Soul are just, once again, they're just playing there's two main tanks for both positions, and neither of them are playing main tank.
And this, I think I mentioned it before, but this is not the first time that we've seen weird shenanigans from the Seoul Dynasty, especially in their tank line, even having main tanks play off-tank position like roles. They were, I don't remember, it was during the lead up to the summer showdown, right?
Yeah.
Where they were really messing with their tank line. So this isn't like the first time that
they've been playing Marv 1 in particular.
Flirted with this idea even before the meta shifted. So this isn't like some...
It's just wild to me in general because I feel like if I was an off-tank player in the Overwatch ecosystem, if Seoul Dynasty were to approach me to sign with them and Marvel is still on that team, or Gesture, I'd be like, I want a lot more money, or I want to have like a release clause to be gone, because at some point randomly, Seoul Dynasty will decide that off-tank players do not have rights, and they do not get to play the game of Overwatch. Like at some point, they're just gonna be like, we're just only going to play main tanks on off-tank, because it just keeps happening. They can't keep getting away with it, but they do.
But they do.
But they do. So, but I'm impressed. I'm happy Seoul have found some consistency and are finding a meta that works for them, because they do have a lot of talent there. So it is interesting to me to see it work out with just two main tank players playing those roles. It's my particular view on it. But it's a match to watch out for. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the Justice matches. I'm honestly excited.
I'm cheering for the Justice.
You're cheering for Justice?
I think it's... I always got to cheer for the team that beats the Fuel, because like so far I've got a pretty good record with that. They won all three of the yearly tournaments, but it's also good. It's like, I wasn't a part of the Dallas Fuel this year, but it's still... It's good to see Decay obviously happy and finding success in another team, and the underdog stories is always a fun one to cheer for. So yeah, I'm hoping the Washington Justice managed to pull an upset and get sent to Korea.
I just had to write a tweet, by the way, because Jayne, on the timeline, Overwatch League is asking players, what kept you motivated throughout the season? And Yaki responds to Overwatch League, my salary.
No.
He just responded, my salary.
I gotta go find this.
Keeps me motivated.
Yep, that's getting
Unreal respect to Yaki. Unreal respect. Legend. Actual legend status. That's really good. That's really good. I am a big fan of that tweet. I'm a huge fan of that tweet.
It just goes to show you that Avast is on Twitter during Contested.
Well, to be fair, I am looking for new hot scoops.
Oh,
and also
that's a good excuse. I should use that.
You should. And also on top of that, I'm going through Google trying to find ways to communicate youth culture to someone that is also young but does not understand youth culture.
Wow.
I have to find the lexicon. I have to find the proper Rosetta Stone for you to get to you.
I feel personally attacked.
Well, the thing is just I want us to be able. It feels like sometimes that the Tower of Babel has been erected and destroyed between the two of us. Occasionally, you know.
Somebody in chat was just suggesting that I try and explain EVE Online concepts to you. I feel like I'd get the same deadpan stare back in response.
Because the thing is, I'm supposed to speak to say it's still video games and like competition.
So is
stuff.
TF2, but you just like use gibbous and I don't even know what else.
Yeah, but I feel like, but the thing is, that's just terminology. But the themes are all the same.
But terminology is exactly the problem. We were talking about this last week. I don't know what Mad Wilden means. That's just terminology at the end of the day, too.
Well, I guess so. That's fair. That's fair. But I feel like there's something else there. It's like a current. It's like a current.
It's like an energy.
It's like an energy, you know. And then our energies are diverging, but we need to be converging. Our energies need to be meshing together. Well, any other back to playoffs. We're back to playoffs. We've sort of gone off rail there a little bit, but overall, here's my takes from the weekend. Okay, Hog Zarya, fine. You're meta. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. Hog Zarya is pretty meta. Fine. Fair enough. I don't think it's the best meta, but it is meta, and it works for those that are good for. I don't like meta being changed 3 years in a row at playoffs. Don't like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I enjoy it.
Not a fan of it. But
I mean, people mauling on Reddit is always fun.
That's always good, yeah. I'm excited for all the remainder games, honestly. Yeah. All the games at this point are done. It once again proves to me, even though I mauled in that we shouldn't have regular season, because what's the point with this? But, like, honestly, thank God we're done regular season, because all the games are good.
Yep.
All the games are good.
Yep. I'm just, other than kind of seeing if the Washington Justice can sneak it into Korea, which would just be the greatest storyline of all time, and we would talk about it for years to come.
Oh, boy.
Other than that happening, I just cannot wait to finally settle the score on who is better APAC or NA.
That's also going to be, that's exciting.
I mean, I think a Shanghai Dragons Philly Fusion final is what I'm amping for.
I mean, I'm also not counting Shock out of the race yet, because if there's one thing that the Crust can do, the Crust can do what must be done. And the Crust knows that they will find a solution. If they end up just playing Super full time because he can play off tank, that might actually be what Shock does, because Super can play main tank and he can go play off tank for the tanks that win. So like that might actually be the solution for the Shock, which they're currently feeling. We're like, because I don't feel like Smurf's off tank has been great when they've put him on Zarya. While Super can play Roadhog really well, or even play Zarya probably better than Smurf, legitimately. Like he has a really good off tank, and can still play main tank for them. So I think Shock have some room to really like be good, but their rush has been good too. They've had a really good rush for Striker on the Reaper in particular. So I'm excited to see Shock potentially just go back to the lab and come back out after Krusty has taken his
and
like
they're
journey.
going to be working hard. I mean, Super was even talking about it on his stream. They've got to get up early and they're grinding. They're grinding hard.
They got to rise and grind. But overall, I'm really excited for all these matches. If Rain proves me wrong though, and they do something really incredible and like the power of DeFran's organic farm-to-table vegetables have suddenly powered them up, then maybe. But I don't see Rain getting better. I'd like to see that. But the storylines for this weekend are going to be crazy. I'm really excited about the storylines. And the diversity of the meta, even if I have to eat some crow and Hog Zarya. Well, I guess we have to talk about mailbag now too, right?
Well, we kind of do, because there's no Thursday episode this week.
That's right. We don't have a Thursday episode because
Rocket League
is happening again.
Yep.
One of these days.
One of these days.
One of these days, we're gonna have like a.
We should just cast Rocket League. We know what's going on.
Oh, mine was gonna be like the movie Grease, where we're like running down an alleyway snapping and we fight them in leather jackets.
I am so down for that.
Yeah.
I wanted an excuse to get a leather jacket.
Yeah.
That seems like a good enough one.
Think so?
Yeah.
I also want to get like an extendo comb, like the flip out combs.
Yep.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And then
we can sing Officer Cronky.
Yeah, and 80% of my diet would consist of cigarettes, much like the time that it was filmed. So it would be about the same thing. But I do think that this is going to be, we're not going to be on Thursday, so no Thursday episode. We can't do it tomorrow either because there is like a Call of Duty, the reveal. There's something big.
It's the gameplay reveal.
That's right,
for
gameplay
Call
reveal.
of Duty Cold War.
And it's happening on the Envy channel.
Yes, it is.
With some of the Empire
That's
guys.
going to be a fun one.
It will be cool. If you're a Call of Duty fan, check that one out for sure. And then Thursday we got Rocket League. So, but we will not be back then for this week. So we don't. But we can still put a mailbag out for the week after that.
We didn't have a question prepared, so we're gonna have to come up with it on the spot.
First, let me read from my Discord. So we did put a mailbag out for who is going to earn the sneaker bonuses.
Oh yes.
And so far, to our knowledge, chat correct us. There has only been. So this is the question we asked last week. Is like who is getting the various sneaker bonuses that they added. So far, to my knowledge, there have been 2 people that have gotten them. Super and Gator have both gotten 5-man shatters.
Yep, for the
to earn
5-man
sneakers.
shatters.
But I don't think, unless chat, because I don't see like a place they put it out. Who has anyone else earned a sneaker
Mecco
bonus?
too. What did Mecco do?
Oh, Mecco ate 3 ults.
Ah.
Mecco, he canceled 3 ults. That's right. So Mecco, Super, Gator. That's true. I forgot about that. But I was asking who is going to get these bonuses. People were just projecting. And we'll see. We'll come back next week once playoffs are fully done and see who's actually got them. But here's the prediction so far. So the first one was from Steakman in my Discord saying, flooded deadlift, funny Astro. 3+ environmental kills from a single ability ult, funny Astro. Fewest deaths per 10 minutes, funny Astro. Final blows per 10 minutes, funny Astro. Elims per 10 minutes, funny Astro. What do you think the next one is? Objective kills per 10 minutes. Who do you think got that?
Funny Astro.
Funny Astro.
Funny Astro.
What about Rhine Shatter more than 5 people?
Funny Astro?
Funny Astro.
Did he also eat 3 ultimates?
He actually did not put that one on there.
He did not eat 3 ultimates. What a lazy...
Not put that one on there. So now, getting away from Funny Astro, so let's move. So I see one from Stracciatella in my Discord saying, the deadlift is going to go to Chipsa on Philadelphia Fusion. So actually, I'm going to ignore that.
No.
Someone thinks that Super Tanks will get objective kills per 10 minutes, which I could... Yeah, but his ego would expand even more.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
That'd be dangerous.
If he gets 2 pairs of
It's
sneakers...
just gonna pop.
Let me move past this as well. Let me find a really good one. Here we go. I can always rely on Dragon's Fan, aka Robo Killer. Dragon's Fan, aka Robo Killer, as I say, tank supports. Fewest deaths per 10 minutes is going to be Sado. Imagine that. Go back 2 years and tell me that Sado was going to have the least amount of deaths. Or I guess a year, I should say, not 2 years. 2019. Tell me that Sado.
Was he not season 1?
See, he didn't play until stage 4 of season 1.
Right, because his ban.
Yeah.
He had that super long ban, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because he was like the boosting Yakuza boss.
Yeah.
He like owned the entire boosting underground. I guess it wouldn't be Yakuza because that's Japanese. So I don't know what the equivalent of like the Korean mafia might be. But
do they have a name?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Does the Korean mafia have a name?
I'm sure they have something like that. But then they also think Tank's Fury is going to be up there, which is fair. And assists per 10. This is definitely a Fusions fan, not a Dragons fan, because also assists per 10 minutes is alarm. I actually haven't seen too many. I'm looking through these. Not too many people really put fusion roles. Someone put a bunch of Chengdu. They put Evil Tool and Leave for like final blows and assists, but they're gone. They're gone. They won't be earning any sneakers. Their sneakers are
no
gone.
sneakers. And apparently somebody in chat was saying that it's only like a $200 gift card. It's not actually custom sneakers.
It's not actually sneakers?
That's what somebody in chat was saying. I don't know firsthand, but chat was being like, I can't believe it's
that
only...
can't be right?
I can't believe it's only a $200 gift card and not actually custom sneakers. Is that right, chat? Who was the one saying that in chat?
Sounds like lies.
This is what I get for believing chat.
Maybe Gator typed out $200 in chat when he got it. Maybe the sneakers are worth $200.
I feel like they'd be worth more just by the fact that they were awarded
I mean,
to the players.
a $200 pair of sneakers is still pretty nice. It's a good pair of sneakers.
Yep.
I gotta look down. I'm
just
not
sign them.
No.
Now they're worth $202.
Yeah, true.
Or $190 if it's super. But
Well,
you ruined a perfectly good pair of shoes. Drawing all over them.
I guess we could also continue that prediction and see how it tracks out, but we're still going to be tracking that. And whoever actually gets the most amount of those right, we're gonna do something for you. I don't know what. We're gonna shout you out for sure, but I'll figure out something. I also have to deliver a Killer Bean plushie to whoever gets MVP in the Bad Pachimari League. So I'm not extending that same gift to those who get the sneaker bonus predictions correct. That was only for the Bad Pachimari League MVP.
Well, I heard the air conditioning turn off here in the Frontier Communications Studio, which means it's 6 o'clock and the end of the episode.
I didn't know that was the time it turned off.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually...
It's going to slowly start heating up in here until it's absolutely unbearable for my Canadian temperament. So I need to flee
for me.
the entire zip code.
The entire zip code.
Yeah, there's a bunker.
Well, should we submit what we have to submit a mailbag question though? I had to submit a mailbag
Did
question.
you not just say it that you were extending the same?
Well, we could extend it. Does the chat want to continue to make predictions for who gets the sneakers? Do you guys want to keep the odds up and we find something special for you? If you get the most sneaker predictions right out of everyone else that predicts? Is that what they want? I can make the executive call because it's our show. No? Ask us here's our mailbag. What is the optimal AC temperature for your house?
That's a great question.
What is the optimal AC temperature for your house? Because I think it's about...
I'm actually scared to even answer this one because you guys are just all think I live in a refrigerator, but what are these... God, freedom units. I hate you, freedom units.
You can put in freedom units and we'll mix it back up to metric, or just do metric, whichever one. So I'm going to tell you guys mine so you can understand. My optimal temperature is 26C. Or actually, no.
What?
No. 25C. 25C. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
That's what I told you, my house is normally at 78 all year. So 77.
Can you not?
No, I'm just so used to it.
No,
I'm just so used to it.
I'm sorry. Any chance of us being friends has just been removed.
Here's what's cold. Here's what's cold to me. Cold to me is 22, which is about 72 degrees.
No.
That's cold to me in my house. No, I like 75 to 76 around there. So I guess that's actually closer to 24C. That's like my optimal temperature.
That is ludicrous.
Isn't that crazy?
I
to
would
me?
never be able to fall asleep. I would be sweating.
It's because my parents this shows the adaptability of the human body. This is how I believe that Wolverine could be a thing. You could make a Wolverine because I have survived at that temperature my whole life, and everyone says it's hot. And I used to think it was hot when I was a young lad, but my body has adapted.
When I was a young lad.
I have just gotten used to it.
Yeah.
And now I think 60 degrees is cold, just outside, cool. Can you believe that? So yes, tell us your optimal AC temperature. You can put it in the Contested Mailbag subreddit, in my Discord, in the Contested Mailbag channel. You can use whatever language you want. I'm sure it's a very violent debate over this. You can respond once again in the podcast reviews, but I don't think anyone has, or in the Envytv YouTube comment section when the video goes live there on Envytv, the YouTube channel. Anything else you'd like to add there?
I don't know. I was listening to what you were saying.
Well, that has been the mental blank hour of Contested, and we will see you guys next week. And can't wait to hear your AC temperatures. Bye bye, everybody.